Cleopatra was born in 69 BCE in Alexandria, Egypt. She was part of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek family that ruled Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great. Cleopatra's full name was Cleopatra VII Philopator. She grew up in a royal palace and was taught many things, like how to speak several languages. She was known for being very smart and learning a lot about politics and how to be a strong leader. Cleopatra became Queen of Egypt when she was just 18 years old. She ruled alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who was only 10 years old at the time. In ancient Egypt, it was common for brothers and sisters in royal families to rule together. However, Cleopatra wanted to rule Egypt on her own because she believed she was more experienced. Cleopatra is often remembered for her beauty, but what really made her special was her intelligence. Many people were impressed by how clever she was. Cleopatra knew how to speak at least 9 different languages, including Egyptian, Greek, and Latin, which helped her communicate with many different people. When Cleopatra was in her early 20s, she met Julius Caesar, a powerful Roman leader. Cleopatra needed Caesar's help to win back control of Egypt after her brother's advisors tried to push her out of power. Cleopatra and Caesar became allies and possibly even romantic partners. With Caesar's support, Cleopatra regained her throne. Cleopatra and Caesar went on a famous trip down the Nile River. This journey helped show the people of Egypt that Cleopatra was their rightful queen. They traveled in a large, decorated boat, surrounded by guards and servants, as they sailed past the beautiful Egyptian landscape. Cleopatra had a son with Julius Caesar, and they named him Caesarion, which means Little Caesar. She hoped that one day Caesarion would rule both Egypt and Rome. Cleopatra was very proud of her son and made sure that he was treated like a future king. In 44 BCE, Julius Caesar was assassinated in Rome by people who feared he had too much power. Cleopatra was heartbroken when she heard the news. She quickly returned to Egypt to protect her throne and her son, Caesarion, from any danger. This was a difficult time for Cleopatra, but she remained strong. After Caesar's death, Cleopatra met another powerful Roman leader named Mark Antony. They quickly became close allies and partners. Cleopatra believed that by working with Antony, she could keep Egypt safe and strong. Together, they formed a powerful political and romantic bond. Cleopatra and Mark Antony worked together to rule both Egypt and parts of the Roman Empire. Cleopatra provided Antony with money and resources, and in return, he protected Egypt from its enemies. They made a great team, both in politics and in their personal lives. Cleopatra and Mark Antony had 3 children together, twins named Alexander Aelios and Cleopatra Selene, and a younger son named Ptolemy Philadelphus. Cleopatra was a loving mother and cared deeply for her children, hoping that they would one day rule great kingdoms. As the Queen of Egypt, Cleopatra was very rich. Egypt was one of the wealthiest countries in the world at the time because it had lots of grain, gold, and other valuable resources. Cleopatra used this wealth to build strong armies and create beautiful monuments across Egypt. In 31 BCE, Cleopatra and Mark Antony fought a major battle against Octavian, another powerful Roman leader who wanted to control Rome and Egypt. This battle was called the Battle of Actium, and it took place on the sea. Unfortunately for Cleopatra and Antony, they lost the battle, and their future became uncertain. After the Battle of Actium, Cleopatra and Mark Antony returned to Egypt. They tried to build up their defenses, but Octavian's forces were too strong. Cleopatra and Antony realized that they were in great danger, but they refused to give up without a fight. When Mark Antony heard false news that Cleopatra had died, he was heartbroken. In despair, he took his own life. Cleopatra mourned the loss of her loyal partner. After Antony's death, Cleopatra was captured by Octavian's forces. Octavian planned to take Cleopatra to Rome as a prisoner to show off his victory over Egypt. Cleopatra, however, had other plans and was determined not to be humiliated in front of Rome. Rather than be taken to Rome as a captive, Cleopatra chose to end her life. The story goes that she used a venomous snake, called an asp, to bite her. Cleopatra's death in 30 BCE marked the end of Egypt's independence, and it soon became part of the Roman Empire. Even though Cleopatra died, her story lived on. She is remembered as one of the most powerful and intelligent rulers in history. Cleopatra showed great leadership and courage, even in difficult times, and her legacy continues to inspire people today. One of the reasons Cleopatra was so successful as a ruler was because of her deep understanding of politics. She knew how to form alliances and make deals that kept Egypt safe from enemies. Cleopatra was able to negotiate with powerful leaders like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony to protect her kingdom. Cleopatra was closely tied to Egyptian religion. The Egyptians believed their rulers were connected to the gods, and Cleopatra was often seen as the living image of the goddess. Cleopatra took part in many religious ceremonies to show her people that she was not just a queen but also a divine figure. During her reign, Cleopatra helped fund many building projects in Egypt. She built temples, statues, and monuments to honor the gods and her ancestors. Some of these structures are still standing today, showing just how grand her vision was for Egypt. Cleopatra was the last pharaoh of Egypt. Like the pharaohs before her, she was considered the ruler of both the land and the people. She worked hard to protect Egypt's borders and keep her country independent. Cleopatra made important decisions about trade, war, and how Egypt's wealth was spent. Cleopatra was known for her sharp mind. She studied subjects like mathematics, science, and philosophy. Cleopatra also knew a lot about the stars and astrology, which helped her make important decisions for her kingdom. Many admired her not just for her beauty but for her wisdom. One of Cleopatra's greatest strengths was her powerful navy. Egypt had many ships that could defend the country from enemies and help with trade across the Mediterranean Sea. Cleopatra was proud of her navy and often made sure her ships were the best equipped in the region. Cleopatra came from the Ptolemaic dynasty, a family of Greek rulers who had controlled Egypt for nearly 300 years. Even though her family was Greek, Cleopatra embraced Egyptian culture. She was the first of her family to learn the Egyptian language and follow Egyptian customs. Cleopatra worked hard to make Egypt a wealthy and powerful kingdom. She encouraged trade with many countries, including Rome and Greece. Egypt exported grain, papyrus, and gold, which made the country rich. Cleopatra also used Egypt's wealth to support Mark Antony in his battles. Cleopatra lived in a magnificent palace in Alexandria, the capital of Egypt. The palace was filled with luxurious items, including golden furniture, precious stones, and beautiful artwork. The palace also had beautiful gardens where Cleopatra could relax and meet with important guests. Cleopatra was a trendsetter in ancient fashion. She loved wearing colorful robes, golden jewelry, and crowns made of precious gems. Her sense of style became famous across the Mediterranean. People in other countries admired Cleopatra's fashion choices and copied her unique look. Cleopatra wasn't just involved in Egyptian politics, she also played a role in Roman politics. Her alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony gave her influence over Roman decisions. Cleopatra's close relationships with these leaders made her a key player in the Roman Empire. Cleopatra was famous for being able to speak many different languages. She spoke Egyptian, Greek, Latin, and several other languages fluently. This made her a great diplomat because she could speak directly to the leaders of many different countries without needing translators. Cleopatra's royal court was filled with scholars, artists, and advisors who helped her make important decisions for Egypt. She surrounded herself with some of the most brilliant minds of the time, who helped her run the kingdom and keep Egypt prosperous. Cleopatra was a very strong leader. Even when faced with difficult challenges, such as threats from Rome, she remained calm and determined. Cleopatra made tough decisions that helped keep Egypt safe and strong during her reign. As the Queen of Egypt, Cleopatra also had a religious role. She was seen as a living goddess, especially associated with the goddess Isis. Cleopatra performed important religious ceremonies and made offerings to the gods to keep Egypt's favor with them. During Cleopatra's time as queen, Egypt became a center of culture and learning. Cleopatra encouraged artists, writers, and scholars to come to Alexandria to share their knowledge. The city's famous library held thousands of scrolls on history, science, and literature, attracting visitors from all over the world. Cleopatra was known for her diplomatic skills. She knew how to negotiate with other countries and form alliances that benefited Egypt. Cleopatra used her charm, intelligence, and language skills to make deals that kept Egypt safe and independent for many years. In ancient times, marriages were often used to form alliances. Cleopatra was married to her brothers, Ptolemy XIII and Ptolemy XIV, as part of a tradition in the Ptolemaic dynasty. However, Cleopatra's most important relationships were with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, which helped her strengthen her position as queen. Cleopatra's powerful navy helped protect Egypt's trade routes across the Mediterranean Sea. By securing these routes, Cleopatra ensured that Egypt remained a wealthy and important trading partner with many countries. She used Egypt's riches to fund her armies and build monuments. Cleopatra's image was often depicted in Egyptian art. Statues and paintings of Cleopatra showed her as a powerful and beautiful ruler. Many artists tried to capture her likeness in their work, and even after her death, Cleopatra's image continued to inspire artists. After Cleopatra's death, Octavian, who later became Augustus, used propaganda to paint her as a dangerous and manipulative ruler. The Romans told stories that made Cleopatra seem like a villain. However, history remembers her as a strong, intelligent leader who did her best to protect her kingdom. The exact location of Cleopatra's tomb remains a mystery. Some believe she was buried alongside Mark Antony in Alexandria. Archaeologists are still searching for Cleopatra's final resting place, and her tomb could hold many secrets about her life and reign. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content. See you in the next one.